Cool. We're here with Incubation Engineering, and we're doing a special call. Well, special call. We'll do an earlier call so that it's a bit more convenient for the people in Europe. There's an agenda. Sri, you have the first question. Thanks for that. Go ahead. Oh, Sri, I don't think your audio is working. Might be the headset you just put on. So you feel free to fall back. There was a little bit of a hum, but I think it's fine.
We can move to Yanis meanwhile.
Yep, let's do that. Yanis?
Yeah, so I don't quite know what to expect from this call today just yet. So I'm just...
Me neither. I was asked to do this call. I'm happy to do this call, but what it feels a little bit like is that people are reporting the status of their projects to me. And that is not a good thing, because those should be in the update videos. They are in the update videos. The update videos are great, maybe a bit long every now and then. I think we should go shorter, but that's a different subject.
That's why I just wanted to go in and see how this call develops and then take it from there.
Sorry, does my audio work now?
Yes.
I'll just take 10 seconds and just lay out the intro for this meeting. So
go ahead, please.
Yeah. Thank you. This is the first ever Incubation Engineer CEO's sync, monthly sync. So I used to do one with Sid for 5-minute production. And then some of the team members felt that it'd be nice for everybody to get this kind of feedback. So yeah, it's a individual engineer or SEG sync with Sid, not a department or a team meeting. And yeah, my purpose, like Sid said, is to just share very high level updates, but also have specific asks that I want to raise and maybe see if Sid can help me with that or not. That's the purpose of the meeting. Yanis, all yours.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, well, I just mentioned a very, very high level status. So currently I'm still working on the simplifying the GitLab pages onboarding thing. And I think that's pretty straightforward. And I think with the pages team currently growing and moving to the create editor stage, this has the ability, I think, to take a lot of that work off of me. So the next thing that I'm looking at to do is integrating GitLab with Cloudflare a lot more. Cached by caching on an instance level, and I think the one biggest task that I still have ahead of me is to enable serverless for apps like Remix, which is pretty new, or the more commonly known Next.js, Nuxt.js, SvelteKit. All these use JavaScript runtimes on the server, and I think that is something that we should be looking at. So this is what's next up for me. Ultimately, I want to go to the direction where we have a one-click deploy for any Jamstack app from the GitLab user interface. To make that as frictionless as possible, but it's a huge task, and I've only just started. Also, I wanted to just mention Netlify Graph. I don't know if you've heard about that, Sid. It's a very interesting GraphQL abstraction layer that Netlify offers as a beta right now. Where you basically can, for example, query Stripe, for example, with GraphQL, just from within the application. And I'm investigating what that means for us.
Is that, and then how does that work? Is that code or is that a service?
That's basically a service from them. So you set it up with your own API token. And then you have a GraphQL endpoint as a developer that you can query from within your Jamstack application from your front end code. So you don't need a backend server to use that, which is pretty amazing.
That's the trick. Okay, so you can use an API without
having to set up a server. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Which users are you talking to?
So initially, I want to go for a front-end developer persona, single developer that just wants to get a simple site up and running, because I believe that is a strong part of our current user base of GitLab Pages. But I want to grow that by targeting those and getting the basics right for those single front-end developer personas. I want to build up the trust that's required for more complex applications to work with.
That's I think you're talking about that persona. Which users are you talking to? Are you talking to users?
You mean actual end users that are currently using GitLab Pages?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a few conversations a while ago with this is public, right? So I can't disclose that.
Are there people working on GitLab Pages? Because you're trying to do Jamstack on GitLab Pages, are there people responsible for maintaining kind of GitLab Pages in the regular dev groups? Like, is that received?
Yes, we have a GitLab Pages team that is currently working on the GitLab Pages server more than anything else, which currently primarily just delivers static files, static sites under a certain domain. So most of the work that has so far been done is in terms of making static site delivery reliable and secure with SSL encryption, custom domains, authentication. So that is all already there, but it's useful only for static files. So I want to develop that into an opportunity to use with JavaScript runtimes. So most Jamstack applications need some kind of JavaScript server to be performant, to do some server-side rendering and stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah. I think what you're working on, caching with Cloudflare on an instance level and serverless with Cloudflare workers, makes a ton of sense.
All right. Did I lose audio or is everybody silent?
Everybody's silent also.
All right.
Yeah.
We got 25, we got 20. It's a very short call.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that if people are just going in the right direction, most of you are, I don't have to add anything.
Hey, but Sid, I've got some very specific requests of you. So if we can jump back, if that's okay for everybody, jump back to point number 3. Just a lot of updates of what's going on in CloudSeed, specifically 3F. I connected with the partner marketing team at Google Cloud last week, and some things are coming out of it. So our first milestone, mid-April, they're going to amplify our social posts, which is good. Same thing mid-May. So mid-April is the private testers and mid-May is the GA on gitlab.com. What I need from you specifically is, if you look at point 5, the 2 DevRel teams will be organizing podcasts, and I need to follow up with official requests. But I've spoken to the let's say, one of the right people on the GCP side as well. They have a backlog until September, but somewhere October, November, it's going to happen. And what we want to do is have the DevRel team, podcasters, interview key members from Cloud Run team. So let's say the product owner or some superstar engineer that they have, and also some people on our side. So my request specifically is, would you be willing to contribute short audio or video excerpts or blurbs so that we can use that for those podcasts and the other social media outreach that we do?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, that's one. Point number two is I will request you to amplify the social media posts as well around mid-April and another one around mid-May.
Great.
And a request for everybody on this call, please visit hello.cloudc.app. I would love to see everybody sign up as a trusted tester there.
Thanks. That looks great. One question though, what does trusted mean in trusted test?
It's a term that GCP uses for their private testers. And in our case, we are going to have a private group with very specific permissions, and everybody who signs up gets invited over there. So it's not as such a sandbox, but it's pretty much, trying to replicate a sandbox where they can act.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry for hijacking the agenda. Back to point number 5. Eduardo.
Hello. So I got no updates. Well, I do, but I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about 2 questions, actually meta about engineering, incubation engineering itself. Is the first one is, how do you see incubation engineering growing? I mean, not incubation engineering itself. We can always bring more people in it, but us as engineers, incubation engineers, and our specific areas, because we are kind of like founder personas within, or I don't know, pushing some area. And generally, you would see if we were a startup, each one was a startup, we would grow by hiring, by increasing the size of the company. We cannot do this within incubation engineering. But at the same time, we cannot just keep delegating the stuff we do, because other teams already have their own backlogs and everything. So we are in a kind of a conundrum. We want to ship features, but at the same time, shipping features means we have overhead on maintenance, and that just stacks up over time because we are our own. How do you see that coming? How do we grow from here? Where do you see, for example, we reaching the next step in our careers within incubation engineers?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think there's 3 options career path wise. I think there's the option that you kind of get the start of a new group within the regular dev department. So suppose you are able to attract a lot of users and generate revenue because people use your features, the features you make, we might start a new group around it. A lot of the, I think that'd be the ideal outcome, as in you were successful, there's a lot of demand, you end up spending 100% of your time maintaining stuff. So, but there's all this demand for new features, and we say, okay, we're going to graduate this into a group and put a couple of people on it. There's odds that it doesn't succeed, and that we shut it down and you move on to maybe a new incubation engineering project, or you decide to leave because none of the projects appeal to you. I think the hardest thing is if it kind of goes sideways, as in there's not enough growth and volume to graduate it into a group, but it's clear that it has a lot of promise. And I think that's where the discussions are going to happen, and we might end up with dual engineer groups or stuff like that. But that's hard, right? Then it's unclear. Then the friction with the regular dev groups becomes bigger. Like, where does one end, one begin? So I think that's where I'm not sure what the solution for that is. think in many cases it will be like, hey, let's try to make sure that we figure out how to prove this or disprove this. What would make the case for making this a dev group with multiple engineers? Does that address your question?
Yeah, somewhat, because I already have a group with my area, so that it's confusing whether I should go to a different one eventually. But if we rely, because we hire but based on a lot on passion as well, so it's not like you can just shift the passion somewhere else, and also domain expertise and things like that.
Yeah, I think yours is one where I don't think we're seeing the usage yet, but we see that there's a lot of customer demand, and therefore we decided to make it a dev group, which is a great outcome.
Okay, for the second question that I had is about, this is not really about incubation, but also, yes, is about hackathons. It's an idea or something that I've experienced in the past that I've been working on. So we need, to innovate, we need time to innovate. It's really hard to innovate when you're 100% of the time busy. And we have tons of engineers over here that have great ideas, have awesome insights, they have work, they have talked to users, but they're often not able to work on ideas that they would like to implement. Well, business priorities and things like that. But in the past, I've worked in different companies. I've worked at, and also I've implemented this myself when I was a lead. Hackathons, save some part of the time, every 3 months or something, get people together. We would have prepared systems for that so that you could create ideas and bring people to your idea or collaborate across the company and hack away. I created an issue for that over here, but I would like your thoughts on it. It's a little bit challenging because it's, well, remote. It's not impossible, but it's quite doable. But yeah, ideas on this.
Yeah, thanks for that. And the problem is like, we accept contributions from anyone. So the problem is the time. Like, do you get to like make less progress on your regular work in order to create the space? And I think that depends on a few things, like the regular work, kind of where is that right now? Like sometimes something is unblocking a ton of other people, or like it's important for FedRAMP or something like that. And like there's a lot of that we cannot afford delays at that point, at that time. It's about the person. To what extent do they want this? Like, I'm sure you really like the hackathons. I've also heard people complain about like, well, I can't do my regular stuff and now I have to do something else. And I don't understand why, because I don't think it's adding a ton of value. So I think there's different personalities and personas, and forcing everyone to do a hackathon, like for 0 people doesn't make sense to me. 100% of the people also doesn't make sense to me. And the third is the thing you're working on, is it going to add value to the company? I've seen another company's hackathon projects where upfront you could easily determine that was not going to add any value, and it was just for fun. At those companies also, sometimes the hackathons came in the private time of the employee and were kind of after hours projects, and the company kind of forced you to work longer hours in order to do those things. I don't think that's what we're about either. So I think I'm not super excited about company-wide hackathons where there's no people can work on anything. Everyone has to participate, and it's for everyone. So I'd much rather see people pitch projects they want to work on. Maybe that's not, the hackathon is not the right word. Google had their 20% time. I don't think that's something in the handbook about what we think of that. But I do agree. It's super important to have at least the freedom for people to kind of have their proposal looked at to see whether that's a good investment. And we don't really have a word for it, and I struggle to come up with a word for it, which is an indication in and of itself.
And then the follow-up for this is that's exactly the issue. It becomes so much trouble to push an idea that it's best just not do it often. I've seen this happen quite a lot. If you don't have the space to just go free and just without expectations for that idea to work on, just drop it because it's easier or whatnot. And that is a blocker for innovation because you can always justify innovation. Innovation, you don't know. Innovation often comes from things you don't expect where they come from. It comes from collaborations, across the company or between different people or different areas that we don't usually have the data today. But yeah. I agree that
you can always justify innovation. If some people want to work on automating vertical farming, I think that's super worthwhile, but I don't think that's something that GitLab should sponsor and support. So I have a less absolute view. I would love to kind of review some things that people have given up on because it was too hard to push for them, and see if I can help get that to fruition. Is that a good next step, Eduardo?
Could be.
That'd be fun. Figure out whether you want to do that sync or async. Happy to spend 25 minutes in a meeting, but also great to just post on the CEO channel.
Yeah, thank you. 2 minutes remaining. So Fred and then Darby.
Yeah, I'll keep it short then. Yeah, Sid, nice to meet you. I started March 1st, and I only have one question. Do you have any feedback on the direction of AI Assist?
Yeah, beautiful handbook page. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
What's the next step? This is pretty high level.
Yeah, the strategy, there are 8 points. So I started last week on the first one, number 1. Just yeah, there it is. I started exploring with Adolint and the integration with the UI, and I found out that there's already quite a bit of functionality there, which I'm going to explore further this week.
Okay, so you want to add that feedback into the UI of the what we call, I think, the web UI.
Yes, the web UI of the repository, but I found out that code quality is already part of the merge request. So I want to explore that now first.
Cool. It'd be great to have a picture of how this could look.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that seems like a great first steps.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, I'll try to be quick. I like the Hello Cloud Seed website, the name, the branding, all of that around it. I'm curious what you think about kind of productizing features like this, and would you encourage this for other SEGs as we think about our projects?
That's a question to me, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that she's doing a great job on the branding, and I think that she's been at this a bit longer than most of you. So I think there's, for most of you, like there's more marketing in your future because that's it's not just building stuff. There's the marketing, and I think she's doing a great job. The name was really hard to get right. I think he nailed it. I think the emoji logo is kind of cool. But the biggest thing is he thought about like finding an audience. We're working with Google Cloud. They have an audience themselves, and we can, we're trying to kind of work with them to create more momentum around it. I think that's super cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, we're at time. Thank you, everybody. I'll share the recording, Sid, if you can give me some access. Or, oh, it's live. All right. So,
Public recording, so it's right there. So
Okay.
thanks for organizing this call. I think we're finding that the format works well with just people asking questions. So next time we can do it like that. But I look forward to next time. I thought it was great to.
perfect. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest.